Good morning, everyone. Venerable Sangye Khadro is still traveling in Europe, and so consequently, she is still not in this chair. So I'm following a long line of people who have been doing reviews, particularly on the perfections that she taught before she left. Today, we will sort of review the perfection of wisdom. I mean, we will touch on the topics of the perfection of wisdom and look at kind of a branch that we didn't go into with Venerable Sangye Khadro, but Venerable Chidren has used when she taught this topic. And then we'll have a little bit shorter session on the wisdom part today. We'll turn off the camera and we'll do a session on monastic comportment before we welcome all of our guests to the Abbey. And so we'll just do that together here for the rest of the time. So the class will go longer than usual, but online it'll go shorter than usual. So we'll pay attention. I'll try to pay attention to the time to make sure that it's fairly equally divided. Anything else I need to say? Yes, before, in case I forget at the end. So for the online folks, this will be the last time this class, both this class and the Friday night class, will be taught until the end of November. No, December.
The next class is November 27th.
Okay, a month from now, almost, a little more. So the next class for the Middle-Length Lamrim with Venerable Sangye Khadro will be November 27th. The community here has the remarkable privilege to host Venerable Master Wu-Yin from Taiwan, and her team of nuns from Luminary Temple, Luminary International Buddhist Institute will be with us, and many nuns from all over, and many volunteers from all over coming together to share an extraordinary time of studying the Vinaya together. So we'll miss you online, but stay tuned, we'll be back. And, huh? Oh yes, thank you. It's at a different time when we come back. It's at 8 a.m. Pacific time. Yeah, all right, we'll mail these things to you too. Okay, so let's start with a few minutes of, just a few minutes to breathe, and then we'll have the prayers and recitations. I'll set a motivation, and away we go. So bring ourselves into this moment, this space right here, right now, into your own body. Visualizing the Buddha and the space in front and ourselves surrounded by all living beings.
I take refuge until I have awakened in the Buddhas, the Dharma, and the Sangha. By the merit I create by listening to the Dharma, I will attain Buddhahood in order to benefit all sentient beings. I take refuge until I have awakened in the Buddhas, the Dharma, and the Sangha. By the merit I create by listening to the Dharma, I will attain Buddhahood in order to benefit all sentient beings. I take refuge until I have awakened in the Buddhas, the Dharma, and the Sangha. By the merit I create by listening to the Dharma, I will attain Buddhahood in order to benefit all sentient beings. May all sentient beings have happiness and its causes. May all sentient beings be free of suffering and its causes. May all sentient beings not be separated from sorrowless bliss. May all sentient beings abide in equanimity, free of bias, attachment, and anger.
And as we set our motivation this morning, bring to mind 3 people you know who are not in a monastery. And see if you can just imagine what is going on in their life and in their mind right now. Each one. Some are having pleasant experiences in this moment. Some have an affliction in their mind and are acting it out or thinking it out in different ways. Some are feeling very happy. Some are angry. Some are simply unhappy. They're at work or tending to home or going about daily life in samsara. And as we think of these 3 people that we know, it can just allow the very situation that they are in. Moving through life, probably unaware that they are so much controlled by the karma that they have created and the states of their minds at any given moment. And yet we know them. We may care about them very deeply. And we wish them the happiness that they so want. So very much want. And they too, though they wouldn't put it in these words, would really like to be free of their suffering. And we can expand that thought to as far as we can in the moment, to realize that the same thing is true for every single living being, us included. We are all the same in that way, wanting to be happy, not wanting any kind of problem, any kind of hassle, any kind of trouble, and for sure not big, full-out suffering. And yet, while at this moment they may not have the tools to really even recognize that because they've never been taught, we have. And the privilege of being able to share the Dharma together this morning, with no bombs falling, no one starving at our front door or in our own family. All the difficulties, really gross difficulties of cyclic existence that we see are so much these days that have always been there. It's not new. But how fortunate that we have met the teacher, the Buddha, and have had our own qualified guides who understand the Buddha's teachings and can guide us along that path to find the doorway out of this ever-ending cycle, not never-ending, but ever-ending cycle of birth, life, death, birth, life, death, bardo, birth, life, death. All under the control of something outside of it's inside of ourselves. But all under control that we can't manage yet. Karma and afflictions. And so today, for the benefit of those three people that we brought to mind, for the benefit of living beings everywhere, we can share this little bit of time on the perfection of wisdom. And look how practicing the perfection of wisdom also includes practicing our monastic comportment. So that we can free ourselves, and that we be so compelled by our compassion for other living beings that we absolutely must become Buddha. It's the only thing there is to do. And use this time today and this time for the rest of our life and for all our lives in order to realize that aim, compelled by our compassion. Okay. So we have been going through the 6 perfections, or the 6 far-reaching practices. I don't think we're using that translation anymore, but it's still out there. Of generosity, ethical conduct, fortitude, joyous effort, meditative stabilization, and wisdom. And these 6 encompass the trainings of the Bodhisattvas thoroughly and completely. So Venerable Sangye Khadro covered all of these. Although I think it's self-evident, what makes these perfections is that they're conjoined with bodhicitta. So they're states of minds practiced, cultivated with the motivation of bodhicitta. And so I went to look for a concise definition of the perfection of wisdom in our text, and in a way it's not so, it may be concise, but it's a little technically languaged. So I went to our teacher, Venerable Sangye Khadro's book. And she has a quote here that's from Joyous, also the author of the text that we're studying, the Middle-Length Lamrim. And he says in Songs of Spiritual Experience, wisdom is the eye that sees the profound suchness, the path destroying cyclic existence at its root. It's a treasury of higher qualities that are praised in all scriptures, hailed as the supreme lamp for dispelling the darkness of delusion. Knowing this, those who aspire to liberation strive with myriad endeavors to cultivate this path of the wise. I, a yogi, practiced in this manner. You who aspire to liberation should do likewise. That should be enough to inspire us right there. So she went on to say as a definition, she said, wisdom is also known as intelligence. It's a mental factor that analyzes an object to understand it and discern its characteristics, such as its merits and demerits. When practiced with the bodhicitta motivation, it becomes the perfection of wisdom. So wisdom known as an intelligence that is analyzing objects to understand and discern characteristics. You know, often when we think of wisdom, we just go straight for the wisdom realizing the ultimate nature. But there's many forms and many applications of wisdom, and that's included here. So we're going to look at this a little bit too, because sometimes the wisdom going for the ultimate, first of all, I'm not qualified to teach it, and second of all, our teacher is so brilliantly qualified at teaching it that anything I say is kind of wasted breath. You've heard it from her. It'll be better for you. And someday I'll be able to teach it too, but not now. So when she says that, when she goes on here, she talks about that wisdom is an important part of the spiritual path, so we investigate the teachings. We investigate the teachers, even. We're using wisdom just from the start to distinguish those that are reliable and those that are not. For example, you can distinguish getting a teaching on emptiness and getting a teaching from Venerable Children and getting a teaching on wisdom, sort of, from Venerable Chonyi. You have a distinct understanding and investigative quality that use your wisdom to say, I'll listen to her, and I'll listen to her too, but we know it won't have the same quality. And I'm not being self-effacing here, I'm just telling you a fact. We investigate and we know. To differentiate the types of behavior we should adopt and avoid, we're using our wisdom. Sorry, my mouth stood up this morning. We use our wisdom to investigate what to adopt and what to discard. And we learn that from receiving teachings, from the qualified teacher that we have analyzed and investigated to know this is a qualified teacher to get this information from. Our wisdom is already at work. The types of behavior we should adopt and avoid are also part of the topic that we're going to cover in the second part of this teaching. So our wisdom comes into play in all these aspects. We use our wisdom to recognize the faults of samsara. And we use our wisdom to generate the determination to free ourselves and others from samsara. That's a mind of wisdom that is discriminating here. We use our wisdom to understand which meditative practices to do on different occasions, and so on. Wisdom is also conducive for happiness and well-being here and now by helping us make intelligent choices regarding friends and partners, education and career, and how we spend our time and resources. When it comes to the Bodhisattva path, wisdom complements the other perfections. And when it is combined with all of these, they come to a point of perfection. So I'm going after this because sometimes I think it's really possible, especially when we haven't studied for very long, I notice not everybody comes to the teachings on wisdom that when Venerable Children is teaching, for example. When the teachings here are optional, some come, some don't. And of course, we all have different reasons why, because they're off the main schedule, so it's not really a criticism. But I do wonder sometimes if we get so intimidated by or overwhelmed by the technical issues that come up with the teachings on the ultimate nature, that we find ourselves, I'm not very competent, I can't do this is over my head, this is too hard. You might have had that more with recent teachings on the on meditative stabilization with Venerable Children. Those were hard to me. But still, or discourage us from getting discouraged about the difficulty of the teachings, because our wisdom is at work. And the more we are honing that wisdom, sharpening our wisdom, the more we are capable of understanding higher and more difficult teachings. So it's important that we look at it, remember that in this way, that it's not just the wisdom realizing the ultimate nature with a direct perception that is what we're talking about. There's many, many different ways that our wisdom can be developed. And so that's what I really want to look at a little bit. So in general, this is from Tsongkhapa, wisdom is that which very thoroughly differentiates qualities in the thing that is being investigated. And here is the wisdom that is skilled. No, that's wrong. So there are three types. The wisdom realizing the ultimate. So the wisdom understanding the ultimate nature of all things, the emptiness of inherent existence. That's one. The wisdom realizing conventionalities. And so this is subjects like philosophy, medicine, arts, technology. This isn't just the classical list, but it's been expanded a little bit, updated to modern times. So philosophy, medicine, arts, technology, languages, grammar, and logic. To use these in beneficial ways, not for the sake of having the degree, but for being able to use them in very beneficial ways. And the third is the wisdom realizing the welfare of sentient beings. So knowing how to accomplish without misdeeds the welfare of sentient beings in this and future lives. Right? So three types. And Venerable Sangye Khadro covered that, I think, quite thoroughly enough for us to get a taste of that when she was teaching this wisdom. So I want to take a slight turn. Venerable Children did this when she taught these many years ago through the Lamrim. That an interesting aside about wisdom is that sometimes we talk about 4 kinds of wisdom in terms of how wisdom is being generated. So this is the important piece of encouraging people to put our minds to wisdom. So there's wisdom that comes because of previous life imprint, wisdom that comes from hearing, the wisdom that comes from reflecting, and the wisdom that comes from meditation. So this wisdom that comes from previous lives is the wisdom we're born with. It's the ability to investigate, to reflect, or to understand, which comes as a result of what we cultivated in previous lives. So part of what we know now, we brought in with us. Or we have enough of a propensity towards it because of what we've done in the past. When we hear the teachings, we hear certain things, we wake up. Oh, sounds familiar. Sounds like something I would like to know more. And so part of what we know now is going to affect how much wisdom we have in future lives. So this coming in with wisdom from the past is only 1/4 of it. It's not like you have to have a special IQ. It's not like you have to have an innate ability. But whatever innate ability that we have, or recognition, or even the seeds that we have for being able to sit in this room, we all have said, if I look back at my life, there is nothing I have done that would put me in this seat. This came from somewhere else. This came from before my birth. And yeah, we've talked about why we might have wrestled with that before we recognized it. But the rest of these 3 wisdoms arise in the context of our life now and our training in Dharma practice now. So wisdom, as you're listening to teachings, or wisdom that you're studying, this is also really, really important. And this can be cultivated more and more and more and more in this life if we're deliberate about it. So as you get information into you, a certain kind of understanding arises. And it may not be single-pointed or a depth absorption of the object, but a certain kind of wisdom that comes from hearing teachings. So that's why we're encouraged to hear a lot of teachings. And because each time you hear something, some kind of understanding is generated that wasn't generated before. Have you had that experience? I mean, I have to say here, and everybody on YouTube who's following the Abbey, we are showered with teachings. We swim in teachings. It's unbelievable to be in North America, especially to be in North America and receive how much teachings we do get and have gotten now for years and years and years and years and years. So to come again and again, even if I've already heard that topic, even if, oh, this is too hard, it just makes me crazy that I've already heard this, the imprint goes in. I have always taken a certain comfort in the story of, whose pigeon was it? Vasubandhu's. Vasubandhu's pigeon. It is said, who I think was Thirumarti, how do you say his name? Stiromati was the pigeon, right? So Vasubandhu, as you know, was one of the Abhidharma great scholars who has influenced the Dharma to this day. Everything we understand and know partly is influenced by what Vasubandhu was doing. And it was said that he recited his texts out every day, and outside of his window there was a pigeon perched on I was going to say a telephone line, but probably not. These days, they're on a telephone line. And so the pigeon is there listening, hearing, just hearing. It's a pigeon brain. That's a pigeon birth. Just listening as Vasubandhu recites, and who maybe he's speaking out loud about what he's writing in his Abhidharma text, who knows. But this pigeon was reborn as his chief Dharma student. And from that listening to the stories from Vasubandhu, already was ready to receive teachings from this master from the time they connected. So I just love this story, and my details are maybe off or on, but that if the pigeon can come to teachings and come out in the next life as Theramati, hey, show up for teachings. That's got to work. Okay, so then we deepen our wisdom by reflecting. So we go home, we think about it, or we go to our room, we think about it, and then we ask, okay, does this make sense? Does this fit with my experience? And those are the questions we have to ask. You know, over and over we hear the story of how Buddha said, don't just take my word for it, test it like gold. We test it like gold by asking, okay, does this make sense to me? How does this make sense to me? Does it match my experience? Does it match what is going on in my life? How does it match? And then we discuss it with other people. So this reflecting part is not just sitting alone and letting it stew in my own mind, because I don't know about your mind, but if I stew in my own mind too long, it doesn't necessarily go in the right place. So I need help. I need to be able to bounce this off other people or hear what they're thinking and see how it matches what I'm thinking and so forth. So the discussion group functions as a way in helping that reflection. We don't have a debate here yet. Someday, maybe, we'll learn to debate in English, I don't know. But our discussion groups are actually playing that role of helping us discuss the Dharma with other people, testing our ideas, and so forth. So, number 2, show up for the discussion groups. I don't like people, okay, show up for the discussion groups. You like the Dharma, right? I don't feel good this afternoon, I have a terrible thing going on, I don't want to share it with people. Show up for the discussion groups. It helps. And they're built in to help us actually develop this kind of wisdom, specifically. So then the third way is meditation. The third kind of wisdom comes from meditation. So we take what we learn to meditation and we analyze things like dependent arising. We develop the concentration with emptiness as the object, following the concentration steps we've been learning on Friday nights, up to the point that we can even understand what those steps are. We go one by one by one. And so then we keep doing this up through, especially the meditation part. Once we have reached the capacity to do that, the wisdom that comes from that meditation then becomes what we meditate through the 5 bodhisattva paths, all the way to the top. First, realizing that emptiness directly, which relieves us from the prison of samsara, and then continuing up to the path of no more learning, where we sorry, I got distracted, where we eliminate even the obscurations to omniscience. So when we understand this, when we understand that place of wisdom, and we understand the steps, and why even what we're doing today in our daily schedule is all built with the intent to help us grow in the Dharma. And to grow in the Dharma means we're heading toward liberation and awakening. And so knowing this leads us to respect the 3 jewels: the Buddha, the Dharma, the Sangha, the teaching, the teacher, the whole lineages of teachings. When we understand this step, that's that kind of wisdom that lets us know what to rely on, whom to rely on, how to rely on them. All of this is part of cultivating wisdom. All of it, or comes with cultivating wisdom. So this is very important. And then on the basis of wisdom, we develop many other good qualities. Where is that beautiful Nagarjuna quote? I may not be able to find it. Basically, he said, wisdom is the root of all good qualities, something like that. Now, how would that be? Why would that be?
mean, at the most basic level, just determining what behaviors, beneficial behaviors to adopt and what to abandon. Just even being able to see that this will be the cause of happiness for myself and others. This brings peace of mind, and these things are harmful and disturb the mind. Just at that level, it starts the shoots of good qualities to grow.
Sure, that makes sense. So this question I put out, the residents even got this question anyway, got a little heads up on it, but what do you think are the advantages of developing wisdom? Venerable Jigme?
I think when I can keep it in my mind that everything arises dependently, then I have more space in my mind. I'm not holding so tightly to all of the many, many changes that happen every day that I can get hooked into and then make myself miserable. So if I keep this view as I'm going through my moments, then everything goes easier for me. Everything makes more sense. I don't have so many afflictions arising.
It's like a good reason to do it. Venerable Sangye?
I think the wisdom beginning with understanding that karma functions, it just totally helped me just move myself right out of the victim mentality, which I had as part of my whole relationship to the world. That's how I engaged people. That's how I got their sympathy. That's how I became good friends with them, is to tell them about my story. But when I started to really own that I was the one who created this, the causes for that, it was so powerful to just open up my whole life as far as what I was capable of. But then I had to make sure that when I went from the identity of the victim to now the identity of being a little bit healthier and wiser, I was still hooked into this really big self. And so then slowly moving into, well, who's no longer a victim? Who's now a little bit wiser, a little bit kinder? So kind of getting into the whole looking at how I identify this self. And so that became a really, really nice segue. And I keep going around in that loop because it helps me continually to break down the identities that I so easily build up about everything I do in my life. And so that's been really helpful to put those two together. And then, as Venerable Jigme said, to just see, well, how does this self come into existence? And that's always a fun piece to see the whole big story. All the causes, conditions, the parts, and how my label has changed through the course of my life, too.
Yeah, nice. Venerable Thubten Chonyi.
I was really struck by the promise to compose, and Dharmakirti's Nayabindu translates along the lines of, since correct knowledge is a prerequisite for accomplishing all the aims of beings, I have taught that. And, you know, in this case, the correct knowledge is a lot about perception and logic, but I think all the levels of wisdom really this can apply. And I think of, His Holiness the Dalai Lama's quote of, if you want to be, selfish, be wisely selfish and benefit others. Like, the more we understand karma, the more we understand just conventionalities, and then the more we understand the ultimate nature, we can actually achieve our aims. Our individual aims evolve as we get those understandings. And we also then develop that desire to fulfill the aims of others as well. But even when we're just getting started and maybe not really into the Buddhist worldview and just trying to be a little bit happier in this life, whatever wisdom we can develop is still going to even be beneficial at that level.
Yeah, yeah. Venerable Noah? No?
I excerpted this quote from the Middle-Length Lamrim that I found really helpful, where Joyous just says, "Those endowed with wisdom can accomplish without any contradiction two excellent qualities that appear to be opposed." Right, then he goes into the list of the four immeasurables and how it's because of wisdom that we don't fall to the near enemy or even the near enemy of each of them. Yeah, and that just blew my mind because my whole life I've been trying to practice the four immeasurables without wisdom, right? So when I try and love, I get attached. I try to be compassionate, I get super personally distressed. Joy, restless, and distracted, and then equanimity, indifferent, right? So he's like, this is all owing to wisdom, because wisdom eliminates the obstacles to accomplishing a balanced strength. Yeah. So without wisdom, you can't have the four measurables. And it reminded me, Venerable's always saying that our practice is about being a balanced person. And I'm always like, is that from Health Magazine? Sorry, I just don't like the word balance. But I'm like, yeah, I know we are adrenaline junkies in the wrong way. But it's like, oh, it's actually really profound. To be balanced, you need wisdom. And I've been off kilter my whole life, or many lives.
Thank you. I needed that. Yeah, anybody else? What are the advantages? Anybody interested in getting out of samsara? Just questioning. Just a question. Anybody think that we actually can? Like, it's the only way. It's the only way. We have to investigate whether that's true. But yeah, I mean, that advantage I think is really important to also keep in mind. We're underneath it all, and this is not even the technical aspect, but underneath it all, I think keeping in mind that our cultivation of wisdom, even at the most simple level, the best we can do is I have this idea of those nice little stepping stones that you guys have, Venerable Losang and company had stepped forward. Every single one of those is a stepping stone towards our own liberation and towards our own awakening. And if we can keep that in mind, it's hard sometimes. It's because it is so beneficial in this life. You know, as you have said, it makes our own lives so much calmer, so much. I mean, just haven't you already experienced somehow just getting a teeny, tiny bit of getting over our self-obsession? Just a little bit starts to ease our mind, ease our anxiety, ease our misery, makes us a little bit looser, a little bit happier. Just a teeny bit in our very, very ordinary, mundane life. It helps. If we can remember, too, that this is also taking me out of here for the benefit of others. So, I think it's super important to try to hold. It's not easy, but to try to hold the view of how it's beneficial now, why it's worth studying, it's worth meditating on, and because this is the pathway out. And I may be a zillion lifetimes out of that, away from that so far. But one drop at a time, one step at a time. So it's a really great benefit, yeah.
To add on what you've just been saying there, last night we were talking about this in the Wednesday class, how and you see this formula described in so many of the Buddhist texts, that it's due to ignorance that the afflictions even arise. Mm-hmm. And due to the afflictions, then there are actions. And because there are actions, those leave seeds in our mind stream. And because there are seeds, when the causes come together, that leads to results. This is a description of our samsaric life.
Right.
And what the beauty of the Lamrim is that step by step we can work at the grossest level and attempt to stop creating the negative karmas, the 10 non-virtues, and then eventually we start looking at recognizing afflictive states of mind. But eventually we have to get back to developing some wisdom to counter the self-grasping ignorance in our mind. And what's so amazing is that I find for myself, so much of the day I'm not even aware that what I'm seeing does not accord with what exists.
Right.
And that's the fundamental level. Like I have to begin to recognize more and more. There is an appearance to my mind, and then if I investigate even a little bit to think about, well, what are the causes and conditions that brought this together, or what are the parts that brought this together, or how am I labeling this with my mind and concepts? Then something bigger begins to show. It comes back to thinking about the countless causes and conditions of what brings anything into our lives.
Yeah.
Yeah. So they've given us this nice, neat little formula.
Yeah. It's a very
And now
neat
we
little
have to work
formula.
it.
And as Venerable always says, the appearances of this life are so vivid. They're right here.
Yeah. And just one more thing. When you were talking, I was thinking about Arya Davis' statement. Just having a doubt about this tears cyclic existence to shreds.
Yeah, yeah. which we have the privilege to have. Whether we have the doubt yet or not, I don't know, but we have access to the doubt. And just to be able to explore the nature of reality and question, is this what I'm seeing right in front of me, exactly how things are? That's part of what tatters, yep, turns it to tatters.
I think that the teachings that we got from Venerable Chodron on the depth and difficulty of developing concentration really was very helpful in many ways, because it brought very clearly to my mind that this is going to be a long road. And so then I have to rearrange my idea about what I can do in this life, what I can do in next lives. And so it brings more realistic understanding of what this path is, and to cultivate being content with creating the causes now, which is what Venerable has said since day one. And it is so much deeper now in understanding what she is saying, which then helps not to get discouraged. I can do what I can do, and it is good, because where I started without any Dharma to now is actually very wonderful. So remember that, you know.
Yeah, thanks, Jigme. You know, it reminds me a little bit of using the founding of the Abbey as an illustration of that. Because when we first started having the lay people that were supporting her, and we had the Friends of Sravasti Abbey meetings, and we brought in a really excellent person who was very quite helpful, but she was very well versed in the development in nonprofit organizations, and she was all over us trying to lay out a what do they call them? Those plans, strategic plan. To lay out a strategic plan for where the Abbey would be in 5 years, where it would be in 10 years, where it would be in 20 years, and what was our long-term goal. And as you know, that's not Venerable Chodron's style. She said very clearly, the Abbey will grow according to the karma of the people who come. And the Abbey has been run according to the karma of the people who come and the people who are involved for 22 years. And so, at the very beginning, it's like, if we don't have that plan, if we don't know that I can achieve this in this life, and I can achieve that in the next life, and by the next life I'm going to be here, and then I don't know, maybe I can do this in 7 lifetimes. Forget that I'm a Mahayanist, and or think I am, not yet probably, but yeah, it's the same thing. I mean, if our intent, the intent was clear. She knew where the Abbey was going ultimately. Maybe that's not the right choice of words here, but it was the karma and the intention to be of benefit and to grow a monastic community that carried it. So in the same way, if we have that, my intention is to develop my bodhicitta and develop my wisdom until I am the Buddha and can help in the best way. And we keep saying this over and over and over, and just reciting it every time we meditate, every time we have a class, habituates us to the pathway. Yeah, so same thing. And then really when we do that, I think enough, this is my own experience, very new experience, but doing that enough, I think, really then, as you said, makes just create the causes, be content to create the causes, makes sense. If I'm content to create the causes and I want to have less junk in my mind before I die, well, actually, that we probably all will. But still, if I have an expectation of what that means or what that should mean to my daily life, that's going to give us problems. But if we have confidence in the long road, have a long-term view, then we'll go there. Okay, enough on that question. Number 2, what ways do you bring cultivating wisdom into your own practice? And the intent of this question is actually to share with each other a little bit what we're doing or how it works for us, to encourage others to practice well too. The question again is, what ways do you bring cultivating wisdom into your practice? On the cushion or off? Jigme?
So for me, I do different things off the cushion than I do on. So on the cushion, the sadhanas that I practice every day help me practice with dissolving my solid feeling blood and bone body into light, to be very simplistic about that process, but nonetheless, to do that over and over again, and then to arise as something different with all the qualities of a Buddha. So to me, that is like that's like a practice session, like a try it on, fake it till you make it kind of process. Off the cushion, it's more about keeping my attention on what my mind is seeing and the stories I'm creating about it, and challenging that to come back again and again and again and again and again, and then some more with the dependent arising of each thing, like somebody else already talked about. So those are kind of the two things that I work with on a daily basis, I guess.
Off the cushion and on. Who else?
This is more my, I guess, way of reflecting, of just taking, when I take notes and then I kind of highlight certain points that I want to reflect on later, and then during meditation I'll kind of reflect on those deeper, some things that really kind of piqued my, mind of like, oh, I want to dig into that more. So that's when I bring it from the teachings to the cushion.
Yeah, Rinchen. Venerable Rinchen, sorry. Oh, I'm sorry, your head's right. You're right behind Dickie. Anyway.
So on the cushion and also off the cushion, I try to practice thinking about how things exist and how I'm perceiving them, and really looking at that gap. And one of the things that just in kind of daily life I try to do is kind of take almost the like debate Sautantrika perspective of just thinking about the different senses. And it's like, oh, okay, I think I'm seeing someone who I respect teach this course. And it's like, well, actually I'm seeing shape and color. Mm-hmm. And, so just trying to like come back to what is the sense data to then see how I'm overlaying these things. Which then practicing that more and more then means it's a little easier to bring up when I am then overlaying, this person is a jerk, this person is insulting me, and being able to step back sometimes and say, okay, wait, what actually is existing here, right? I can't necessarily, I can't at all directly perceive emptiness. I don't think I even understand the chariot arguments. But at least just looking at the gap between sense data, perception, and what I think is there helps me tease apart some of those things and reduce the afflictions sometimes.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's a good exercise, easy to do too, if we remember. Who was it that had, was it Deichin or Seichin?
Venerable, something that I try to do is really keep in mind the long-term view of whatever's going on in my mind and the actions that it's inspiring. And by long-term view, I mean the multiple life views. What kind of causes am I creating? Because it's like, kind of following a map, where is it that I'm trying to go, and what direction am I going right now? Am I going in the direction of refuge to the three jewels, or am I going in the direction of lower rebirths? And trying to adjust, as needed. And when I see myself going the wrong direction, then using the Lamrim to get myself going in the correct one instead.
Yeah, definite wisdom of what to adopt and what to abandon. Yeah.
I go in and out of this practice, but most days there is some situation where I act unskillfully due to afflictions and my big sense of self comes up. And so then the next day to try and find where that person is in my aggregates, kind of identify the object of negation in that situation that just happened yesterday. And, where is the person that's offended? Where is the person that's angry? Where is the insult? Where is the criticism? And to try and break that situation that was a cause of pain down, just to loosen it up a little bit and to shed any lingering afflictions that surround it. And then kind of on the method side, but it's informed by the wisdom in terms of like breaking down like what I see is I love like from the King of Prayers on every atom numberless Buddhas, each Mr. Host of Bodhisattvas.
Slow down.
On every atom of Buddhas, numberless as atoms, each Mr. Host of Bodhisattvas, and the whole sphere of phenomena is entirely filled with Buddhas in this way. So sometimes when I have the bandwidth, when we're doing the 35 Buddhas, it's like every atom here, there's numberless me's in my body doing this. It's just beyond what I'm seeing. And I find that, as a wisdom practice, it's just like, this is not at all, what I am doing now is not at all what it looks like.
Good. Yeah.
I've got it now. Years ago, when I first got into the Dharma, and was hooked in by this concept of emptiness, and I asked Venerable Gyaltso, what is the best way to practice emptiness? And he gave me 3 points. He said, meditate on impermanence, meditate on the hollow body, and meditate on the 4-point analysis. So, I take it back to that, particularly when I'm off the cushion. Impermanence. Things are always changing, and they say that the concept of impermanence, of being able to embody impermanence, is like an elephant's footprint on your mind stream. So particularly here at the Abbey, where nothing is permanent, when things are always moving, we're in a fast-moving stream here. It's easy to maintain that concept of impermanence.
Yeah, it is planned that way. Thank you. Yeah, those are very good tips. Yeah.
And then, contrary to that, when we've lived here for a while, and then you know how things work, and your mind settles into certain ruts and whatnot, I find it very helpful to really try to apply the don't believe everything you think. It's really hard. There's just like this low-level script of things that are so banal that I think are totally normal and mundane that are just completely false, ranging from, oh, so-and-so's good looking, or looking in the mirror, have I put on weight? I'm like, these are all wrong views. No bodhisattva looks at other beings thinking, hey, they're good looking or ugly or fat or whatever. You know what I mean? It's like, this is such a mundane view. Or like, why do I still get irritated when people leave the soy milk container and it was rancid when I cut it open the other day? And I'm like, you know what? Just clean it. Just catching anger and all this nonsense at this kind of substrate, constant running level.
Yeah.
And to see that is how I build my whole world. And it's all crap. I mean, but not to get discouraged, but like, we just need to keep reformatting this,
Yes, but also rejoicing and seeing it. Oh my goodness. That's a huge step to like recognize and not hate ourselves. I don't hear that in you, but can easily go, oh, I'm such a jerk, I'm such a fool. Why do I hate the fact that people don't clean up their soy milk box? I do too. I get irritated every time. But I've learned to put it back down. So that's a step. That is a step. That's wonderful. Yeah, those are all very good suggestions for people. They can sound like something you want to adopt. Years ago, Jeffrey Hopkins gave us a homework that I did for quite a while, and I need to get back to it. Actually, I got off to something else. But he assigned for us to at least a year to when we're looking around at objects, distinguish between the designated object and the basis of designation. Just, you can do it anywhere, anytime. Just, oh, the designated object is that puja table. What's the basis of designation? Well, has a top, has that thingy around it that's wood. It has those little, why does it have metal on it? It doesn't, it must be fixed. Okay, so it's an old one. It has the legs, it has the screws that hold it together. It's this just collection of parts, that's all it is. I can identify the parts and recognize that that is simply the basis of designation of the term puja table. It's kind of fun to walk around with that, and it is helpful. It's helpful to not hold these things so solid. So, we have practices to do. We can recognize that not just the three kinds of wisdom that were discussed here in Lama Tsongkhapa's text, which are also important to know, but also maybe at our level more vividly, we can look at the four kinds of wisdom that are, the wisdom that is that comes in with us, that comes from past lives, the one that is innate from birth, and then hearing, thinking, and meditating are so very, very important. And then the three times that are listed in the text, which I don't have right in front of me, but the wisdom of the ultimate, the wisdom of the conventional, knowing the conventional, and the wisdom to know how skillfully to benefit sentient beings. So those are the three that are right under the perfection of wisdom. All right, so my next question is, what's the relationship between wisdom and monastic comportment? So for our friends online, I'm going to say we're going off because we're going to deal with monastic comportment. So let's do a little mini dedication. We won't do the verses, but to rejoice in having spent time with the Dharma this morning. Thinking of ways that, recognizing that how important cultivation of wisdom is, and understanding what to practice, what to abandon, what to, how to begin to melt down our such solid sense of self that causes us so much problem. The very root, actually, of all our suffering is that self-grasping ignorance, and its hardy companion, what's the word we're using now? Self-centeredness, not self-cherishing, self-centeredness. And dedicate this understanding and this realization for our own complete awakening, and also to be able to bring, someday, to be able to bring all beings along with us to the state of perfect enlightenment. Did you have a question? Oh. Wait. Okay. Thank you. Okay. Comportment.